Good morning, and I'm Ray Sheehan. I'm with Spartan Chemical Company, and this is to discuss and to do some initial training on the Global Harmonization System, otherwise known as the HAZCOM 2012 system. All right? As we know, hazardous communication's been around for a long time. It's very important, and to me, it's kind of near and dear. And the reason why is because years ago, I worked in a laundry, and this laundry had 800-pound washing machines. And it was a commercial laundry, so we would go over, and the guys that I worked in the wash area with, we would go over and we would scoop out the product and we'd put it in these big bins. Nowadays, they have automatic machines that pump the chemical in. You don't have to do that. It's all automated and computerized and all that. But back then, we would have a card that would run through the machine and tell the machine what program we're running. And then it would stop and beep at us. We'd go over and scoop something out and put it in there. That was great, except for we would go over and we'd scoop the first thing and dump it in there. It was called grape. It was almost pure lie. It'd be like sticking your hands in drain opener. And we didn't wear gloves. We didn't wear goggles. It was all dry products. We didn't know any better. We just stick our hands in there and scoop it in and dump it in there. Then we scoop in the next one when the beep went off. And it was a dry detergent. Well, it was a high pH detergent. Then the next thing that would beep would be bleach. Well, it was a 10% dry bleach. We'd scoop it up and dump it in there. Does anybody pour the bleach on your hand all day long? But we were doing it. And we didn't know any better. And then we'd go and we'd beep again and we'd scoop in the next product, and it was sour, which is an acid. Would anybody stick their hands in bowl cleaner all day long? The point was we didn't know any better. The guys I worked with, there were two African American gentlemen. Neither one of them had any pigment in their hand from about right below the wrist up, because all day long they were in this stuff. My hands still around the cuticles peeled like crazy because of the chemicals I was in for 2 years. I didn't know. That's the purpose of hazardous communication. You're going to be using some chemicals. The chemicals that you use are tools. Some of the tools that you use are not safe if they're used in an improper manner or if you don't do what you need to do to protect yourself from these tools. You need this stuff to do the job. Think about it, though. A disinfectant is made to kill bacteria. How do you have a safe disinfectant? You are 90% bacteria. The other 10% is cells that is just like bacteria. So why do you think you have a safe disinfectant? It's made to kill something. If you use it safely, it's a perfectly safe tool. If you put it in Billy Bob's coffee, it's not a perfectly safe tool. Nobody would take a hammer and put it on top of a door waiting for somebody to walk through and let it fall on their head. Intentionally. We know that tools do jobs, and chemicals are the same thing. They're just a tool to help us do our job, to do our cleaning. We can clean without any chemicals whatsoever. Dee's labor budget would quintuple, but we could do it. The place wouldn't be as clean, but we could do it. The place wouldn't smell as nice, but we could do it. The chemicals are a tool. All we need to do is learn how to safely use them. That's what the hazardous communication program is for. It was actually a UN program that started in 1992, and they finally began implementing it to this point. And the countries in blue are the countries that are already into the system, already using global harmonization. The yellow countries are preparing to do it. They're getting ready to get started, Canada and some others. Then you have like Mexico and some of the other countries that are on their way to getting it started. They're still working on how they're going to go about getting it all done. The reason for it, in my opinion, is that there are so many different languages being spoken now. I did a class not too long ago at Dallas Airport. There were 10 different languages spoken in this class. How do I communicate with 10 different languages at the same time? It's impossible. The universal translator from Star Trek has not been invented yet. And there's no way for me to run 10 different languages. Believe me, we don't have Swahili or Kibutu on our program. And even the Spanish at the time that we had was, it was really kind of funny because apparently a word we used in Guatemala was a slang, nasty term. And we didn't know it. And we had the Guatemalans all offended. The Colombians thought it was hilarious that the Guatemalans were offended by it. The Mexicans had no idea why the Guatemalans and the Colombians had a problem with it at all. I don't know what the word was, but all I know is that the Guatemalans were all offended by it. But it was a slang term in Guatemala. So, and we just didn't know. So how do we communicate that? Well, that's what this whole program is about, how we can communicate that information better so that everybody can use the chemicals safely. HAZCOM 2012 will have, it says 3, in my opinion there's 4 differences. First is the MSDS will be called the SDS. I'm going to be long dead and gone before we quit calling something the MSDS. Everybody's going to be asking for the MSDS book from, it's like there's 100 other, we don't wax the floor. Has anybody waxed the floor? Really? No, we haven't used we don't even make a wax anymore. We make floor finishes. It's a difference. But we use a slang term. We're going to go wax the floor. It's the same way. Everybody's going to ask for the MSDS sheet. Product labels are going to be changed. We're in the process of changing them now. All the major manufacturers are in the process of changing them now. You're going to see some of those changes. The outer cartons and shipping is going to be changed. That's going to be DOT. I don't think that you all ship to other areas, so it may not affect you whatsoever, but you may see some outer carton changes. And there is a fourth thing. There's going to be signal words that are going to be put on the labels that are going to be highly important. And really those are going to be one of the 2 things that you're going to see the biggest change. The signal words and pictograms. Pictograms is going to be the major change. Now pictograms are, let me put it this way. If I go to, let's say, Korea, I do not speak Korean. But let's say I go to Korea and I want to walk across the street. I need to find a safe crosswalk. There's going to be a sign up there that's going to look just like the sign here in the United States. It's a universal thing. Whether I go to Mexico, whether I go to Korea, whether I go to France, wherever I go, that crosswalk is going to be designated by a similar sign. That's the purpose of the pictograms, is to give us signs that are universal, that everybody can understand. We're going to have language underneath them, but the sign itself is going to be universal. And this is what they look like. They're a red diamond with a little picture inside there. That's why they're called pictograms, and there's the explanation. Explosive, self-reactive, and organic peroxide is going to be in there. You have to have, we make a peroxide product that I think you all use some of it here. That's an all-purpose cleaner and all that, but it's 3 to 7% peroxide, something like that. If you get up into the higher, like in some of the commercial laundries that we work with, they use a 35% peroxide. With the wrong chemicals, that makes a heck of a bomb. So that would be labeled as an explosive. Gas under pressure, I think all the aerosol cans will be underneath that labeling. If you have somebody with acetylene torches or like oxygen tanks or something like that, you'll see that on there. Then there's aquatic toxicity. Now that one is voluntary. We don't have to put that on our labeling. And what's really going to dictate whether or not that one goes on there is whether or not there's room on the label, because the labels were dictated by several different government agencies what all we can put on the labels, and if we have room we might put that on there, but that's voluntary. And it says if you take this product over and pour it at the root of a tree, it's going to kill the tree. That's what it means. If you take this product and pour it in the stream, you're going to kill all the fish. I would say pretty much all of the chemicals would do that, wouldn't you? I mean, if we take a stripper and pour it into a stream, the fish aren't going to go and think this is a happy moment in their life. If it doesn't work good on your hands, imagine what it does to the fish. So I would say pretty much all the chemicals would fit in that line. They need to be disposed of properly. Acute toxicity by inhalation, oral, or dermal. The one problem I have with that is that skull and crossbones. In my thinking, being in the business for a long time, in my thinking, skull and crossbones is a very high acid toilet bowl cleaner, or high acid or alkaline, bless you, or a high alkaline, high acid drain opener. Those are the two products that up until now have had the skull and crossbones on them. That's why this training is important today, is because these things will be showing up soon. And if you're used to that, and if you think that if you associate with that, you're going to be thinking that some of the chemicals that you use now have gotten worse. No, they're just labeled different now. That's the only difference. But this is acute toxicity by inhalation, oral, or dermal. By the way, the UN has lowered the standards for a lot of that stuff. Now, is that something I think is bad? I don't think so. I think it's a good thing because, again, we need to handle the chemicals safely in order to do the job. So I'm not too worried about that. I don't like skull and crossbones, but they didn't ask me. Oxidizer, generally bleach. Okay? The peroxide bleaches can also go in there too. Flammable. I can't think of any of the products that we use that are flammable. If you all use a delimonene or a pine cleaner, that probably would be rated as a flammable product. Okay, but you need to be aware of it. Corrosive to metals, corrosive to skin or eyes. That's going to be on a lot of the products. Again, they've lowered the standard. Again, it's a good thing. In the U.S. terms, it used to be if the concentrated product caused these problems. In the UN, are the raw materials going to cause that problem? Does that make sense? If a raw material is what causes that corrosion, it goes in there. Doesn't matter what the concentrate is or whatever. So a lot of the products are going to be lowered. A lot of them are going to have the pictogram on there that didn't before. Health hazard, that's going to be a really tough one for us. The carcinogen, respiratory sensitizer, reproductive hazard, and target organ toxicity. And they're using the California standards on that. Now, California is a strange state. They have a stated purpose by the legislature to get rid of all cleaning chemicals. And we're trying to figure out what they're going to clean with when they do that. How they're going to disinfect in their hospitals. They're just different. I don't understand them, but this is their state. That's why I live in Texas. But they're using the California standards for that, so there's going to be a lot of products that are going to have that health hazard warning on there. And the reproductive hazard is a very, very low standard. Very, very low run. Again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but we do need to be aware of what these standards are. Irritant. Everything that doesn't have all those other pictograms on it will have that one on there. There will be no chemicals with no pictograms on it whatsoever. Irritant is just an assumption that some people may find this chemical to cause some problems of some form. Now, by that I mean this. I had a product that was a relatively safe product. It was a good all-purpose cleaner. And I had a lady that loved using it, but she was allergic to the perfume. And the poor lady swelled up like a strawberry every time she got around it. She'd take a week off from work, she'd get better, she'd get back to work, she'd start using it again, even though we had other chemicals for her to use. She loved it, and so she'd swell up like a strawberry again. She was just one of those people that's allergic. One of my good friends is a judge up there in Denton County. He's allergic to Bermuda grass. How do you live in Texas and be allergic to Bermuda grass? And he has to take shots and all that kind of stuff, but it's just the body chemistry. I had a nephew that was allergic to peanuts, and he couldn't be around anybody with peanuts. We had a kid in our choir that we had to have one of those little shot, one of those emergency shot things, because if a kid ate a Snickers bar and came into the choir, that kid would have a reaction to it, and he would actually, we'd have to give him the adrenaline shot and get him to the hospital. So it's just kind of, there are certain people that just have certain allergies to certain things. I must be allergic to something. I don't know what it is, but something gets me, and you can tell in my voice. So that's what this one's for. Narcotic effects, I'm kind of worried about that one being on there. There are certain places where they're going to, they're going to think that it's something that it's not. Anyway, they want it on there. Signal words. There's going to be 2 signal words that you need to be aware of. Danger and warning. Those 2 signal words are going to be on every product, and it's going to be, that's it. It's going to be danger or warning. And we're working hard because some of the products that we think should not be in the danger category, because again, the raw materials determine, not the blended product, but the raw materials that go into the product. Some of them are going to be in there. We have a product that's a Green Seal certified degreaser. That stuff can take tire marks off of your parking lot. It's got a pH below 9. It's just a great product. No solvents in it. I don't know what all's in it, but we are going to have to change the formula, tweak the formula just a little bit to get it under the danger, because one of the components in it would fall into the danger category. So we got to change it, even though it's still going to be Green Seal certified. So how that works, I don't know, but that's why we have chemists and people, microbiologists. This is what we project our label could look like on our Clean by Proxy product. And see, it's got the warning over here, right in there, and it's got the interrobang, the exclamation point right there. We project that's what it's going to look like. We're going to continue to try and have it in the North American languages, Spanish, English, and French. We're going to try, see how that works, see if we can fit it all on there. Right now, we're down to a 7-gallon pail in order to put 5 gallons of product in order to match up with, with what all we're required to put on there. This is our stripper, Shine Emulsifier Plus, Danger Corrosive. Block letters in bold, and then it's got the 2 in there. The corrosive to metal and skin, and then the carcinogen possibility. So those 2, that looks like, gee, that product's a real problem, and yes it is. You should be wearing. One of the biggest gripes I have about floor stripping is not doing it safely. And by that I mean most people wear tennis shoes or boots when they strip floors. Both of them soak up stripper. Both of them are very porous material, and pretty soon your feet start swelling, they start cracking, they start turning pink and peeling. And it's because you got stripper all over them, and you're in it all day long. And the next day, you put on the same shoes and go back and strip more floors. No, you're supposed to wear this. The PPE for this says to wear impervious boots, rubber boots of some kind, foot protection. And you should read the PPEs. If you don't read your SDSs, you should read the SDSs so you know what to do to protect yourself from the chemical you're using. I've seen people get blood poisoning because they strip floors all day long, several days in a row, and their feet start cracking and everything else, and the chemical keeps getting in there. So the safe thing to do is to put on the personal protective equipment. I have people that tell me, gee, I want to be able to go clean a bathroom and not have to put on gloves and goggles. I don't care if I'm cleaning with water, I'm not going in there without gloves and goggles, because I know what people do in the bathroom, and I want to protect myself from what goes on in the bathroom. So, there's some common sense to it that we need to apply. The SDS is going to be a big change. I think it's an extremely good change, and normally I'm not a big fan of government changes. Usually when they make a change, it complicates things and makes it worse. But this time, I don't know what happened to them. The intelligent fairy hit them or something, I don't know, but all of a sudden, this is going to be a very well-organized document. Before, they told us that we had 9 things we had to put in an MSDS. They didn't tell us what order, and we could do anything we wanted with it. In other words, somebody comes walking in here and says, gee, this is a real safe product, look at the MSDS. No government agency checks the product. I can tell you that right now. No government agency approves a product. No government agency tests to make sure that the hazards on that label are proper. So if somebody walks in and says, this is an OSHA-approved product, no, it's not. OSHA doesn't approve any product. They can walk in and say it's a 0000 on there if they want to. If they want to take a chance of getting the daylight suit out of them because somebody got hurt by the product. The national companies tend to be more conservative about that. We don't want people to get hurt by our product. We don't want to have a reputation of lying on our MSDS sheets. So we tend to be okay on it. whereas other companies will take advantage of that and put things on there that aren't true necessarily. I saw one MSDS once that the pH was 14 and the guy said it was absolutely safe to drink. I'm not going to drink drain opener. I don't care. But that was, he wanted to do it, that was fine. But now there's going to be people who are going to be checking to make sure that the products in there are properly done, that the SDS is going to be a little bit more better maintained. Still no government approval, still no government testing, but there's going to be, there's a list of this, if this chemical's in there, it has to fit in this category, and it's like that now. There are 16 sections as opposed to 9, but instead of every chemical company having a different format, it's all the same form. It's a government form, and we just fill out the package. That's all there is to it. So all the information is going to be in there in the same format. There's the 16 sections. You can see it goes out from the 9. And what they've done is, in some places, 2 of those things are in there, and it's split out into different sections. It sounds kind of like it's a little more complicated, but once you see them and start reading them, it's a lot easier to go through, a lot easier to find the information that you need. And I think that's really important because if there is a problem, you need to have that information quickly. You don't have time to go hunting around for it all over the place. You've got to be able to figure out what needs to be done immediately. Now, personally, I don't know what you all do, but I recommend everybody have the 800 number. See, this health services. That's, to me, that's the most important number, the one that you probably use if there's an emergency, this 888 number. All chemical companies are required to have that number or a number like it. It's like poison control. There's somebody on the other end of that line, a medically trained person, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year, Christmas, Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter. In case there's an emergency, in case somebody gets a hold of some product and drinks it or pours it on somebody or something. Okay? That's the purpose of it. So that somebody, an EMS officer, police officer, school nurse can call that number and start doing some first aid on that person. Okay? That's the purpose of it. You and I call, we don't get any information. Are you a medically trained person? No. Give me somebody who is. That's the way they'll say. They won't answer our questions. The other one is the Chemtrec number, and that's if there's, like if you have a barrel of floor strip or degrease or something and it splits or starts leaking or something like that, that's who you call to get it cleaned up. Okay, you can see the next thing they're going to do in the changes, they're going to have the pictogram on there. You're going to see the pictogram on everything. The label, the container label, the secondary label, and on the SDS. It's all going to match up so you can take a look at it and quickly know what it is, what kind of dangers there are in there. There's going to be the DOT information. Again, I'm not qualified to teach DOT information. And it's not really part of our business usually. We do have people at Spartan that can help you with the DOT. Now here's the critical dates. This is why we're having a class here at this time. It should say December 1st, 2013. All employees should be trained by December 1st, 2013. Anybody that is reasonably expected to handle chemicals in the duties of their job be trained by December 1st. June 15th, all products produced after this date must be in compliance with HAZCOM 2012. That's the manufacturer. Every label has to be done by June. Now, you notice something. There's no startup date for us. It doesn't say on January 2nd we're supposed to start labeling the product that way. It just tells us what day we have to have it all done. So what's going to happen, and this is why it's so important to be trained ahead of time. To me, it didn't make sense until I realized this, why we need to start doing the training now. What's going to happen is companies like Spartan are going to start changing the labels as we run out of the old labels. As we get the new labels ready and we run out of the old labels, we're going to start making those changes, and people are going to start getting in their hands and going, what's this? This isn't the same product. By you knowing what to expect, it's hoped that the changes won't be quite as traumatic for everybody, and you'll be able to read and understand what it is. By December 15th, it's called the sell-through period. There's a 6-month sell-through period. And Jam Pack has to have all the products with the old labeling sold out by that time. Okay? They can't ship you any products after December 15th, I believe it is, in 2015. So it's quite a bit of time out there, but then when you think about it, we're almost to 2014 now. And it's going to cost Spartan about $3 million this year to start getting ready, and we have another $2 million budgeted for next year for the labels to get ready. So it's going to cost us a lot of money to make all these changes, but I think it's worth what we're doing here. And then sell-off period for any product produced before June 15th. That's I should change that, but it's June 2016. That's the cutoff date. Now, why would that date be important for you all? This school is probably different, but in some schools I go to, in some businesses I go to, the custodians have a tendency to hoard product. You have some old favorite product that you had back in the corner that you don't want anybody else to know about, and so you keep it back there. Let's say there's an incident, and OSHA comes in and does an inspection, and they walk through and they find in December of 2016 some old product, some old labeled product. That's a $7,000 fine. They don't identify. That's the problem. OSHA does not identify if it's $7,000 per incident, per school, whatever. It's almost like they leave that up to the officer. Okay? It's almost like a police officer stops you and writes 4 tickets. We don't know exactly what it means. Then they have what they call willful violation. And again, it's not very well defined what willful violation is. Willful violation is a $75,000 fine. And again, they don't specify if that's individually, if that's per incident, if that's per facility. They don't identify. So who knows what it can end up costing. But that's the purpose of it. So here's what I suggest. And I suggest this to all the facilities I've been in. Inventory what you got after a certain period of time. And everything. And it's a tough inventory because you have to go through every closet, every place, someplace. Some people can hide stuff. I've been in a building once, this was a few years ago. I found a 52-year-old bucket of all-purpose cleaner in the basement of this building. 52-year-old bucket. Now, how would I know it's 52 years old? Because I know the date when they quit making it in a metal bucket. But it was there. And I talked the guy out of it. I sent it back to the home office. They tested it, said, gee, the product's still good. It's a different color, but it's, and they asked if they could keep the metal bucket because they didn't have any around. So it's amazing where some of this stuff is just kind of pigeonholed away, but it does happen. It does happen. So you have to be aware of it. You have to get it out of here by that date. So again, I'd suggest doing the inventory, a very thorough inventory, and then making sure everybody's in compliance. And that's for labels, secondary labels. That's for any containers that you have. That's for anything that you have on that. It's going to affect all chemicals except for EPA products. Disinfectants aren't going to be affected by that yet. That's the only organization that right now has not made that change. And again, it's because of the labeling. EPA they want certain information on the labels, and if we can't figure out how to fit it on there, EPA is not going to let us put it on there because they want their information on there. So with that, that's pretty much the information that we had for you, kind of a synopsis. Are there any questions or any comments about it right now? Yes, ma'am.
When will we start seeing the new safety data sheets?
We expect to start having those ready first quarter next year. But again, they're not required for quite a while. So when we start releasing them, I don't know. When that date hits, when it's the June 2015 date, what I suggest is that you gather up all the old MSDSs, set them aside. You have to archive them because you have to keep them for a lifetime, and then have nothing but the SDS out. Now, again, another rule is you don't have to have hard copies in each building. If you want to, that's a very good idea. But as long as everybody has access to electronic methods of retrieving SDS, that's perfectly acceptable. Any other questions? Any comments? Everybody totally understands the pictograms. I mean, I think they're really cool. I really like them because, I like reading all those 4,000 words on there trying to figure out what's safe and how to keep it safe. I just want to look and go. Okay. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.